What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Heel Deal Podcast. As always, you're back with your hosts, Ben and Zach. Zach, how you doing this week?
Pretty good. What's going on, Tar Heels?
Gosh, it's been a busy week, especially with football and basketball back. And again, we're recording this on a Tuesday. Zach was out of town, so pushing it back a little bit. But by the time you guys hear this, it'll be a couple days until the Pitt game.
Yeah, coming up on Thursday. So coming out of the bye week, got an early start to the week for the football team. So hopefully they're ready to go to Heinz Field and compete.
Oh boy, I can't wait for that. It was almost like a boring weekend without Tar Heel football, but of course we had basketball. We got the pleasure of listening to the game on the radio if you didn't shell out money for Flow Sports, but I'll complain about that in a little bit. So today, of course, we're going to start with the rundown, which is awesome considering all our women's teams are just running schools off the fields here. Then we're going to go into basketball, talk about, what we've seen in the early season with this Tar Heel basketball team, and then go into our Pitt football preview. And if we have a little extra time, maybe a little bit into, like the college football playoffs, see how these teams are stacking up and just give our opinions on that. But let's jump straight into it, Zach.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
So, men's soccer, they lost in the first round of the ACC championship, or ACC tournament. They tied 0-0, and then Syracuse won on penalty kicks. So that they might go play in the net or the tournament. Who knows? They've had like a during the ACC tournament, they went and beat Louisville 3-1 in the ACC semifinals, and then beat Boston College in the ACC championship game 3-1 again. So they finished the season a perfect 19-0. Overall. So they're going to the NCAA tournament. They're skipping the first – no, I'm getting confused with women's soccer. But they have their first round game, November 15th, which is this coming Friday. So make sure if you're in the area, they're going to be playing it at school. So come watch it. Women's soccer also just ran teams off the field in the ACC tournament. They beat Notre Dame 3-0. They beat NC State 3-0. And then they beat Virginia 2-1 in double overtime.
Wow.
To win the ACC tournament, which is awesome. So they open up the NCAA tournament against Belmont. That's going to be Saturday, November 16th in Chapel Hill. So again, if you're around, this women's soccer team is special. They're finishing the regular season, the ACC tournament, 19-1-1 overall. So just a really good team. But why don't we get straight into our first topic, and then it's going to be basketball. So what a way to ring in the new season. Cole Anthony looks like everything we kind of thought he was going to be.
Yeah, and everything we needed him to be, Ben. That's another way of putting it. Right now through 2 games, he's in the conversation not only for freshman of the year, for the conference and even the entire country, but you could argue, especially with his stats at Notre Dame, that he's in the conversation for National Player of the Year through 2 games.
Yeah, of course, two games.
I know. But then again, it's not unheard of for a freshman to be in that conversation these days, especially in the day of the one and done. But yeah, you mentioned him right off the bat. Obviously, he's the big topic here, especially in the Notre Dame game. Sensational with 34 points and 10 rebounds, 10 or 11 rebounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, nonetheless, a double-double, right? And we knew he was a good rebounding guard, but for him to come out right here in the first game against an ACC opponent and get the amount of boards that he did and also be able to shoot so well from 3, hitting 6 of them and then hitting 12 shots overall. You can't ask for much more out of your freshman point guard.
Yeah, exactly. Without his contributions, I'll just say we weren't going to beat Notre Dame.
No, we wouldn't.
The rest of our team was pretty darn cold. We had Garrison had 10 points, 9 rebounds, but Cole Anthony literally led our team in every single statistical or main statistical category. Points, rebounds, assists. The other guys are going to have to step up, but I imagine we'll get into that a little more later in this episode. But yeah, Cole, even going back to some of Kobe's games last season, I'm thinking playing Texas early in the season where he just took over. Man, Cole took over on a completely other level. He could not miss in that second half.
Yeah, I know, and really, you hit right on it. I mean, second half is where he shined, and that's a lot, kind of what Kobe did last year a little bit, at least early on, whenever we were struggling defensively and stuff last year. But yeah, I mean, he kind of sensed that we needed him to be great in this game. I think he kind of alluded to that in his post-game interview, and he was like, I just knew I just did what my team needed me to do. I felt like the team needed me to do it, so I did it. It wasn't a selfish act, him wanting to go out and get his to showboat his talent, but he felt like he was needed. And to be honest, like you said, Ben, I don't think we win this game without him. Of course, you never know what's going to happen if one player's not in there. Depending, the whole lineup shifts, everything changes. But I don't think we win this game without him. I really don't.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree, and I just feel like that could come back and bite us in the butt further down in the season. But yeah, what are your thoughts, especially considering, we only really beat UNC Wilmington by 16 points. We didn't look that great really in either half of the game. Of course, we're a better team than UNCW, but it just didn't look like the domination you would want against a team like UNCW.
Yeah, and from the onset, we'll point out kind of like what you joked about earlier with Flow Sports and stuff for the CAA conference rights and stuff. Ben and I didn't get a chance to watch this game. I'm sure most of you guys didn't either. If you were willing to pay $12 to buy it, then salute to you. You are a true Tar Heel fan, but we were unable to do that. So just based off the highlights I saw, I do agree with you, Ben. I mean, I knew that this game, there was something about this game that made me think, okay, Wilmington will probably give us a little bit of a game here. Of course, everything points to us winning big. I think we were a 22.5-point favorite. So, I mean, you look at that and you're thinking, okay, there really isn't too much they can do to beat us as long as we don't play horrible. But, I mean, I remember looking on my phone and checking every second I could to see what was going on, and it took us a little bit to even open up like a 5 or 6 point lead on them. And the pictures of inside their arena were packed. I guarantee you it was the first time they've had a sellout like that, maybe since they've been opened. I don't want to generalize, but I do know that whenever we go to town at any of the smaller schools in North Carolina, it usually is a sellout.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. But, again, it was Cole Anthony leading us in most every significant statistical category. We're just going to have to get some more contributions. And I've been a little underwhelmed so far with Christian Keeling, especially since he's had to be in there and play some minutes as a starter with B-Rob still out. But Keeling hasn't really found his shot yet. In the UNCW game, he went 2 for 9 from the field, 0 for 3 from 3. Not the kind of stuff you want from a guy who has experience. It's experience at I'm blanking. Where did he come from?
He came from Charleston Southern. Christian Keeling did. Yeah, he was a grad student from there. I believe he was a grad student from there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So this isn't some freshman who's never really played ball on a big stage.
Right.
Of course, Charleston Southern is not as big of a stage as playing at UNC, but still, you just got to hope that he finds his shot eventually.
Right, yeah, I hope he does too. I didn't expect him to come in and be a crazy three-point shooter or anything yet, but I did think he would have a little bit more success, at least at this point in the season, driving the basket, and he doesn't seem to be doing that yet. That could just be, because he's not comfortable yet, but who knows? We'll have to wait and see if he can find lanes to the basket and get more comfortable with different spots on the floor that we are able to find him in. But, right now, Cole Anthony kind of gets to run the offense his way. And to be honest, I think at least until we figure out what's going on with Sterling and get Armando healthy now, because didn't he go out with a concussion or something?
Yeah, I was just about to say, we might be down another big man because Baycott, he got hit in the head or something. Again, it's frustrating because we couldn't watch this game because Flow Sports sucks. But I think he got doinked or something and just came off the field. He only played the first 3 minutes of the game. So
yeah, and I noticed he wasn't out there. I was hoping it was because of foul trouble. I knew he committed 2 fouls pretty early, so I was thinking that was the reason he was out. But then in the second half, when it still said he had played 3 minutes, I said, okay, something's wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
But hopefully, concussions, it depends on the person. But hopefully that means he can be back within a couple weeks, 3 weeks max. I just hope we can get him back before Ohio State in December.
Exactly. We've got a pretty easy schedule until that Ohio State game. I think we play Alabama before that, but the rest are just really small schools. So
yeah, Gardner-Webb and Elon shouldn't be any trouble, and we get both of them at home.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I don't really anticipate much trouble there unless that we just don't show up, which is a possibility. But because we have been beaten at home before by teams that had no business doing it. I remember Wofford. I think it was in the 2017-18 season. We got beat here at home. Now, of course, Wofford looks a lot better now than they did then, but still, at the time, it was a completely unheard of for that to happen. But yeah, I mean, Wilmington, came out. They played as well as they could. Like I said, the environment was crazy. From the highlights, you could tell the students were really excited about it, and it took us a while to separate ourselves. And I think that really shows that we have a lot of work to do. Of course, the environment's going to have a little bit to do with that, but Garrison at least had 18 points in this one, so that was a little different than he had in the first game, where I didn't think he played very well against Notre Dame. I thought he had a lot of trouble guarding Mooney and stuff, although Mooney missed some shots that helped us out a lot. I thought he struggled with that. But yeah, hopefully he continues to improve. Hopefully Cole can continue to stay hot and we can get more production out of the guards, and the big men can get healthy.
Yeah, exactly. But, as far as surprises, like pleasant surprises, I should say, in the start of this season, I thought Playtech's been giving some really good minutes in there. You know, he's starting to get like B-Rob minutes from last year. If you think of how much B-Rob played, it's about that, where he'll fill in off the bench, and he played 27 minutes this past game at UNCW, so that's pretty significant. If we were only talking about the first game against Notre Dame, I'd also lump in Justin Pierce with Christian Keeling as far as the transfers that haven't quite found their shot, but Pierce played a really, really good game against Wilmington. He was tied for second on the team with 18 points, shot 7 from 12 from the field, 4 for 7 from 3, and then missed all 4 of his free throws, which has actually also been a problem. Baycott could not hit a free throw to save his life that first game, and then we were also having some troubles. We shot 53.3% from the charity stripe the second game. Let me see what we did and then 58.8 against Notre Dame, which is not good. You should not be shooting, or you should not be making less than 60% of your field goals. Yeah, free throws. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I got you. And I remember UNC basketball has had some trouble with that in the past. 2013, 14, and stuff. We couldn't hit a free throw to save our lives. If you guys remember those years with James Michael McAdoo and stuff, you remember how bad it was. I'll never forget this. But I know this is kind of off topic, but I'll just tell a quick funny story. James Michael McAdoo one time shot a free throw in a game at home against somebody that we were already up pretty big on, and he completely just missed everything. He hit the backboard, and it basically just came back to him. And it was one of those things where, I wonder what Roy thought about this, but he kind of just looked up, and he kind of, just smiled about it. He just kind of laughed about it. And then the teammates that were lined up beside the on the blocks, they just kind of laughed, too. It was one of those things where, we're just going to think this is funny because we can't shoot a free throw to save our lives. But back on topic, we escaped those blues a little bit as of late last year. We didn't have too much trouble with that. Cam was a great free throw shooter. Kobe was a great free throw shooter, things like that. But I could see it being a problem this year because Armando is going to get fouled a lot because of his size and his presence inside. Garrison will get fouled some too. Now, he shot okay from free throw.
Garrison's actually a pretty good free throw shooter.
Yeah, he really is.
Especially compared to Armando.
Armando was bad, flat out bad. I don't think how many free? Is he 1 for 6 against Notre Dame? And I don't even know. He didn't take one against Wilmington. But the 1 for 6 is not going to cut it. We've got to have the big guy shooting him at least hit 2 or 3 more than that. Miss 1 or 2 at most. But
it's good that he's drawing these fouls. Yeah, it's just you got to make him pay for it.
Yeah, you got to at least get something out of it.
But that'll come. Freshman, let's give it a little bit of time before we pass too many judgments.
Right. Yeah, but free throws are going to be something we're going to have to really try to work to improve on. I think Brandon Robinson coming back will help with that too. I think he's a pretty good free throw shooter as well.
Yeah, it's going to help with our perimeter offense too.
And he'll get fouled some too, driving to the basket if he plays the way that I think we will need him to. So hopefully that'll improve as the season goes on, much like pretty much everything else with this team.
Yeah, exactly. So speaking of future prospects, what's the biggest area we need to improve, or that you're looking forward to seeing us develop for the rest of this pre-ACC play?
Well, I think we just need to establish who the next scorer is. The next consistent scorer. You got to have more than one guy to get a bucket when times get tough. And I was thinking about this after Notre Dame. As happy as I was that Cole, blew up the internet and everything after that game, I was thinking to myself, kind of in a pessimistic way, this is not good for us to have to do this already, because everybody who plays us from now on is going to do gymnastics to prevent him from getting his shot off. And if that happens, what are we going to turn to? It's similar to what happened in, I think it was 2013 or 14. I think it was 13, when Marcus Page was the only guy on our team who could shoot a 3. And when we needed a 3 at the end of the game, there's no way in the world he was going to get the ball. I mean, you could have given it. I mean, he would have had to have gone to the other side of the court to get the ball inbounded to even get a chance. So I'm just afraid of that happening with Cole, especially when we get against tougher competition. We've got to establish somebody else who we can go to and get us a basket from really anywhere else on the court.
Yeah, I mean, we just really need Christian Keeling to be that guy who can shoot from the perimeter and also drive it. Even Cam, could drive the ball when he had to.
Absolutely,
which is what made him so dangerous. So hopefully he finds his footing, and that's really like the biggest thing I want to see out of the team is getting those grad transfers going, because they're going to be an integral part of this team.
Absolutely.
Hopefully when we get B-Rob back, I think against Wilmington he wasn't in a walking boot or anything, so he might just be a few weeks off, but really, really hoping we get him back before we go and play Ohio State.
I wouldn't be shocked if Roy experimented with starting Justin in this game against Gardner-Webb on Friday because, Leakey has done what he can, and he's playing out of position guys. That's probably why he hasn't played great these first two games, but I wouldn't be surprised if we started Justin on Friday to test that out because of the way he played against Wilmington. That wouldn't surprise me at all.
Mm-hmm. No, so I totally agree. I think now's the time to experiment with those lineups. So don't be shocked to see some weird hybrid lineup come out, but I'm excited for it.
We'll see what happens, man. I don't know.
Exactly. So with that, why don't we move on to some football? We got this Thursday's game against the University of Pittsburgh. We're playing this at Pitt. As far as our chances for the ACC Coastal, that's kind of out the window. We talked about that last episode. But Pitt is, I think they're second in the Coastal, so we're kind of playing spoiler here, and we're also playing like, hey, we need 2 wins to make a bowl. So if we want to consider Mercer a win, and I'm hesitant to do that, but let's just consider it a win. They're an FCS school. We should be okay. This is like if we can beat Pittsburgh, we're sitting pretty. We're back at 5-5.
Right, and it takes all the pressure off of that, assuming that we beat Mercer. Mm-hmm. It takes all the pressure off of that all-intensive and emotional game at NC State over Thanksgiving weekend. Because if we have to go into Raleigh, guys, and beat them for a chance to go to a bowl, it looks like they may be in the same boat we are. I think in our season preview, Ben, back in August, we kind of joked and saying, what would happen if when we went to NC State, both teams were playing for a bowl at 5 wins?
No, I vividly remember saying, I can totally imagine us having to go into Raleigh with a bowl game on the line. Yeah. Luckily for us, NC State's kind of hot garbage this year.
They're not as good as they have been.
But they'd love to play the sport. So I'm absolutely not sleeping on that game.
And they've been NC State. We're not previewing NC State right now, but they've been banged up. So we have to assume that by the time we get to them, they will have as many people playing as possible, and they'll play us tough no matter what. But regarding Pittsburgh, guys, this will be a really tough game. I think ESPN has us underdog by 4.5 points or something like that right now. And given the fact that we're on the road, you have to assume that at least 2 or 3 of those points are because of the venue. Mm-hmm. So this is basically a fancy way of them saying it's a toss-up. We have no idea what's going to happen. And that's kind of,
Well, congrats, because neither do we. Neither does anyone who wants to try and bet on North Carolina football. Yeah. Or ACC Coastal football. It's like the craziest subdivision of any conference in the country right now.
Yeah. It really is, and Pittsburgh, they kind of went up and down a little bit too. They had a rough start against Virginia in their first game, but then since then they've been able to get tough wins in a lot of the game. I think in pretty much all 6 of their wins, I think they haven't won by much. It's been 1 or 2 scores at most, much like ours has been. So you can argue that they are kind of in the same boat we are, where we could be undefeated or winless.
Exactly. They beat Delaware by 3 points. They beat Duke by 3. They beat Syracuse by 7,
and they almost
Miami they lost by 4.
Right, and I know that they almost beat Penn State early in the year.
Yeah, exactly.
They didn't do it, but they almost did, much like we almost beat Clemson. So both teams have had an opportunity to get a huge win, upset, and neither have been able to do it. So it's kind of a similar situation for them than it is us. They're just sitting at 6-3, whereas we're 4-5. So they have a little bit of an up on us there.
Yeah, exactly. But I do think this is a better Pitt team than their team last year, even though they did win the ACC Coastal. So
right. Well, in the past, Pittsburgh has been all about, at least in the past since they've been in the ACC, guys. I don't know much about them since before then, but they especially last year, they were all built on their offensive line. They were only going to go as far as the running game could take them, and the running game took them to win the division. Okay, I mean that's great. Of course the division was horrible last year, as you guys well know. So 7 wins to win a division is, but that's about what we're looking at this year. Think about it. Virginia. Don't they have 6 wins now or 7? Yeah. I don't know. So they're going to be winning it with probably 7 or 8. So, but back to the point. The point is that their offensive line has been what's carried them, and that's been, I think, a little bit different this year. We speculated early in the preview about how they're going to be more of a passing team with Kenny Pickett, and how they finally have some speed on the offensive side of the ball, whereas they usually just had a lot of power that they just had to run it right at you and hope that you couldn't withstand the power. But a lot of what they do is still run identity. That they run a lot of passes out of 11 personnel with 1 back and 1 tight end and 3 wide receivers, kind of like what we do. But they also have big sets where they pack in the tight ends and they run off tackle, they run counter, and they run right at you. So we're going to get some multiple formations on Thursday night.
Yeah, absolutely.
It won't be one thing.
But at least that matches up with the strength of our defense, which I think is that defensive line.
Yeah.
We'll see, and we've talked about it a ton the past couple of weeks. We have a depleted, undersized secondary right now. How's Pitt going to come out? Are they? I could totally see them just leaning off the run a little bit and just trying to toast us over the top like these other teams.
Well, they'll certainly attack our man coverage on the outside, much like pretty much every team has so far, especially since we've had the depleted secondary, specifically at corner. But looking at their receiving core, they don't have too many guys that are huge like other guys, like Sage Surratt and such. Their leading receiver is Taysir Mack, and he's 6'2". So 6'2" is a decent sized receiver, but it's by no means a huge 6'4" or 6'5" guy like T. Higgins. The biggest receiver they have is a guy named Aaron Matthews, and he's 6'4", 220. But he's only caught 10 balls on the whole year. So, he's obviously not a featured guy in their offense. They might go to him this game if you want a game plan specific, but I don't know. I don't think that the matchup issue in man-to-man coverage will be as big of a problem for us in this game as it has been in the past. I wouldn't, if I were Jay Bateman, I wouldn't freak out about that and try to switch to a bunch of different zone looks and stuff. I would probably try to start out with man and see if Pitt can beat it like other teams have, and if they can't, then do it, and then just do what you've done all year. Yeah,
that was going to be my follow-up question. Do you think we're going to – the man didn't work in the first half when we changed the zone, and then that suddenly didn't work in the last game.
Yeah.
So you think they're going to come back out and play a similar man and just see if Pitt can just say, hey, you saw what beat us, can you do this?
Well, I think they'll mix it up. The reason I say I think they'll play more man is because, we've been playing a lot of man all year. Now, we could probably play zone a lot in this game and have more success with it, of course, if we know what we're doing with it, than we did against Virginia, because the reason it didn't work against Virginia was not because they were still able to complete outside the numbers against zone. It was because they found people within those windows, and they also had the option look going in the backfield where then, like I said in that podcast, all that running deception was coming right at us, and we didn't have assignments to each man like you do when you play man coverage. So, yeah. But Kenny Pickett, he can run, but he won't. Uh-huh. He's a pocket passer. We can get away with that, unlike we could with Bryce Perkins.
Yeah, exactly. Oh gosh, I still having nightmares about Bryce Perkins.
Yeah, he tore us up.
Oh, but I am noticing something pretty funny. We were just talking about how Pitt is sometimes inconsistent, just like North Carolina's been this season. But their points per game, they score 20.9 and they've allowed 20.1. We score 27.9 and allow 27.1. So both of these teams have an average margin of victory or defeat of 0.8 points, which is not that much at all. That's saying that on average, we're going to win a game by less than 1 point. So, man, all bets are off. If I were putting money on this, first of all, I wouldn't put money on this.
Yeah, dare I say this one will go down to the wire too.
Yeah, dude, honestly, it's a safe bet to say that, it's going to be a one-score game going into the fourth. I almost guarantee, unless we just, are terrible or we have some awesome revelation on the defensive side of the ball. But I just think this isn't a defense that can dictate the game. This is a defense that can stem the flow. It's just damage mitigation at this point. You got to make just enough stops that our offense can win the game for us. That's where we're at, and I don't think there's any sugarcoating that.
Yeah, I hate to say bend but don't break defense because that's a term that gets thrown around a lot for a lot of the wrong reasons. But I mean, in a sense, that's kind of what this defense has become a little bit. And when we've been able to get off the field, we've bent, but we haven't broken. And at times we've broken.
Yeah, I mean it's all just going to be about, like, can you get that timely turnover?
Yeah, get the turnover, or just get a key third down, get off the field at midfield or something on third down, prevent the field goal, something little like that. Just little plays, little details like that are going to be what can give our offense more opportunities.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
So why don't we transition away from this and go towards the more, broad world of college football with the college football playoffs coming up. But before we do that, what's the key to this game? What's one thing we got to do to get back up to 5-5 and have a better chance at a bowl?
Yeah, well, I think two things. Defensively, I think we go back to our identity. We can play that man coverage again, and we take our chances there. I don't think we'll have as much trouble with that as we have in the past. I think that's what Jay Bateman does. Offensively, I think we just let Sam do what Sam's done all year. I think we can run the ball against this team too, and we spread them out. So I think honestly, just be balanced. I mean, there's not one key thing here. I think we just be balanced on offense. We stick to our identity on defense, and we go in there and try to get a big road win.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I don't think our offense is going to have too much of an issue at all.
Right.
But again, it's just going to come down to, can our defense make a couple stops? Because in a one-score game, anything is so important.
Yeah, what you got for the score?
Man, I think it's going to be 28-24. I don't think it's going to be a firefight. I don't think we're getting up into the 30s and 40s. But man, who knows?
You think
that I say we're not going to be up into the 30s and 40s, you probably will be. It's probably going to go into like 9 overtimes, and who cares at that point?
God help us! I hope not, because we have class on Friday, or at least I have class on Friday. but yeah, I got actually that's crazy. You said 20-24. I've got Heels 27-23.
Okay.
I think the defense uses the time they've had off to regroup a little bit. We'll hopefully get some guys back from injury. Hopefully Miles Wilfork will be his full self and not just a shell of himself like he was the last game. And we can get in there and we get some key stops. And then I think our running game, comparable to Sam's ability to throw the ball down the field in recent weeks, I think we get out of there with a little bit more points than they score. So I think we win 27-23.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how that goes. But, yeah, let's talk about some actually really good football teams.
Yeah, that's fun. Let's do it.
Of course, everyone was probably watching the LSU-Alabama game. That was number 2 versus number 3 in the first week of the college football playoff polls. I think they're going to release the new polls tonight.
Yeah.
So since tonight we're recording this on a Tuesday, so we're going to be talking about this. We won't know this week's new poll projection, but we were talking about this a little off air. I think LSU's got to be number 1, right?
Yeah, and you guys can decide how stupid or smart we are because by the time you listen to this, you'll know what the actual rankings are. So Ben and I are going to take a stab at it here. But to your point, LSU's number 1. Mm-hmm. I thought they should have been number 1 last week. I thought putting Ohio State at number 1 was all about the eye test, and I know that's a component of it. I know that's what the committee likes to do a little bit. But I think LSU now with 4 wins against teams that were in the top 10 at the time of the game. To me, you can't beat that schedule. I mean, cannot beat that.
There are so few teams that even have the chance to play 4 top 10 teams.
Yeah.
For LSU to just go through them, have Joe Burrow, who's probably the Heisman frontrunner.
He may have won it on Saturday.
Yeah,
to be honest.
And I mean, I don't want to say Ohio State didn't deserve to be number 1 in that first poll because they've really been steamrolling teams. Like they go in and they're putting up 60 and 70 on like damn near every team they're playing. But so I think it's going to be LSU number 1, Ohio State at number 2.
Yeah.
I think you got to bump Clemson up there. A lot of people were surprised that Clemson was at number 5, so they were on the outside looking in. But, of course, like you knew either LSU or Alabama was going to lose, so that opens up the spot for Clemson.
Yeah.
But again, Clemson hasn't played anyone. They almost lost to us, for Pete's sake. They're a good team, but man, if there was like a first team out, it's going to be Clemson.
Yeah, they have to win out to get in, guys. And there's a scenario that could come up. I don't know exactly what we'd have to sit here and talk about it for a long time to flush all that out. But there are probably scenarios out there, or at least a scenario where they do go undefeated and don't get in. You still have Georgia out there who's got one loss, albeit a loss to South Carolina, who is going to most likely get an opportunity to play LSU in the SEC championship, and that would be their opportunity to state their name and give them, a chance to get in there without any doubt. You have the whole Big Ten conversation going on right now with Penn State losing, Minnesota skyrocketing up and playing out of their mind right now, and then they're going to have an opportunity to play Ohio State at some point, most likely. I think that's what would be the Big Ten championship matchup if they both get there. I'm not exactly sure who's on all sides of that conference, guys. I apologize, but I think that's what's going to probably happen. So that'll be their ticket in. They'll get a chance to prove themselves there. So you've got a chance to have probably one Big Ten team. I could see two SEC teams definitely getting in, then Clemson, and you've got the Pac-12 stuff going on. I mean, it's crazy.
Well, I'm really excited for this Clemson-Wake Forest game, man.
Yeah,
If Clemson's going to lose, and, I saw something, it was like they got a 95% chance of winning this game or something, even against, a pretty good Wake Forest team.
Yeah.
This is, 5% is probably the best chance any of their opponents are about to get to beat Clemson. So it would be awesome to see the upset. But we got Clemson at 3, and then it kind of gets a little iffy at 4. You have Alabama, who's been killing teams. They just lost against the number 1 team in the nation. Do they deserve just to drop to number 4? You have Georgia, who just has 1 loss, like you were talking about. Then you have Oregon, who they haven't lost since the first week. They've rallied off 8 in a row. With that being said, the Pac-12 isn't the most amazing conference in the entire world.
No, it's not. But you do have to give Oregon respect. I don't put them in there. I have them at 6. Much like I think the AP poll represents. I think they're at 6 now. What were they at? 8 last week or 7 last week?
Something like that.
Yeah, just move them up a couple spots. To be honest, Ben, I don't know exactly what you think about Alabama in terms of what happens depending on the rest of their season, where they could end up if X happens, if Y happens. But right now, I keep them at 4. I keep them at 4 because you look at the way the committee has done this in the past. And the committee looks at a lot of things. Some things we're never going to know as fans. But they have shown in the past that strength of schedule is a big deal, and Alabama doesn't necessarily have that. They do have Auburn left. Okay, so they do have another chance to get a big...
Yeah, I was just about to say, that's going to be the biggest test.
They do have Auburn left, and LSU most likely won't lose a game, so there won't be a chance for them to get into the SEC championship. But if, let's say, LSU were to blow out Georgia... and Georgia were to, get knocked out completely, then you have maybe Clemson lose a game. Or if maybe Clemson doesn't lose a game, you have Ohio State lose a game or something like that. There's so many things that could happen, and then Alabama goes, all right, we got 1 loss to a great LSU team who's, I think, probably going to win the championship unless I see something else. We have a stake to get in, and then you put them in at 4, and you have your rematch.
Yeah, there's no way for us to know exactly what it's going to look like when the college football playoffs actually come around. I can just guarantee you it's not going to look like what it does right now.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it. But gosh, that just about wraps it up. We're about to run out of time here. But give us your thoughts, not just on Carolina sports, but we want to hear, how do you think Cole's doing? How do you think the rest of our team can stack up? Do we have a shot at a bowl for football? And then, what do we get right and wrong with this college football playoff projection, considering they're actually going to release the projections tonight? Make sure to hit us up on Twitter at Heel Deal Podcast.
Right, yeah. Always enjoy talking with you guys when we get the chance, so let us know what you think.
Yeah, absolutely. So we should be back on schedule next Sunday, so look forward to another episode on Monday. But as always, it's been your host, Ben and Zach. It's been great talking to you guys.
Yeah, man. All right. And as always, go to hell, Duke.
Almost forgot that one.
Almost forgot that.